All right, so going back, Ryan Major asks thoughts on the final seasons of Beastars. And then up here, the question was, do you still stand by the claim that you made in the video essay that about the paint not being red being the biggest mistake they've made in the adaptation? Let's get the context for that real quick. Context for that bit is that this is what Legoshi looks like at one point towards the beginning of the anime when he thinks he sees. I guess he correctly. It's when he gets the hint that I think Louis has a thing for Haru or is involved with Haru, and there's like a "this is war" sort of moment here a little bit, which doesn't actually manifest that much, but it's a cool dramatic moment that conflates his desire for Haru with predation, because it looks like blood, because it's a black and white manga, so it looks indistinguishable from how blood looks. You can technically see stuff here and stuff here showing that there are multiple colors of paint technically, but the evocative image here is white background, Legoshi looking sinister, and then this black fluid. But in manga, it's rarely black fluid. It's actually implied to be red fluid because it's blood. Whenever you see this is what blood looks like in manga. It looks black because that's just how it's drawn. And then you have the fucking anime, the fuck ass anime, where it's a blue sky, and then it's just multi-rainbow bullshit. And even his expression isn't as good. He just looks kind of more tired instead of sinister. It's just kind of a bummer. It's an example of how stiff and awkward the 3D models are, which like the Beastars can be a pretty anime, but on a regular basis, the models are so stiff and rigid when the manga, it was very scratchy and expressive and flowing and much less rigid in its shapes, to the point where characters can be off model on a regular basis, but at least a lot of expressiveness. So just a lot that sucks about this panel. Like this moment of the anime just looks like shit. It has a beautiful blue sky, which is just distracting. Like on a regular basis, manga chooses not to have a background, and anime that adapts manga often just on autopilot just puts the logistical, like, oh well, there's a sky behind them. That's what would be there. So I guess I'll just put it in there. It's called like blue sky syndrome, I think. It's just the tendency to just put beautiful blue skies in the backgrounds of shots that didn't have them in the manga. And it's like, you're recreating a shot from the manga. Maybe you should commit harder to the aesthetics of recreating that shot. Like maybe that shot has a specific impact because of the aesthetics of what it looked like, and maybe you should recreate that exact thing. And there's more, like let's see. This one's that pissed, because we're talking about the last season of Beastars. Technically, the stuff that came out last year is the same season. It's only 3 seasons, technically. I think that's stupid. I like to think of them as season 3 and 4, because they came out a year apart from each other. But let's see here. Googling Get Mad Legoshi. You want to talk about bad adaptation shit? This is one of the best panels in the entirety of Beastars. It does not show up in the anime. They recreated this scene in the anime. It's the scene where Legoshi encounters Keenus in the anime. In the manga, there is technically like some kind of energy drink that's laced with bone marrow or whatever, which is what they turned into Keenus in the anime. But it's just a one-off thing that happens for like one chapter. It is not a storyline, but it is this part where people try to tempt Legoshi, and he reacts like this to it. Louis is not here in this scene. He just manifests in front of Legoshi and says, "Get mad, Legoshi," or "Stay mad, Legoshi," or something like that. And it's like, it's the companionship that they have with each other. It's their dynamic. Specifically highlights the legs pulled up here to show that Louis has the prosthetic leg, because spoilers, by the way, going forward, we're here to talk about the new season of Beastars. That wasn't somehow clear. But like, look at this. Look how fucking cool this 2-page spread is. And they didn't adapt it, even though they adapted this scene. Like, what the fuck is wrong with them? Studio Orange, I don't understand. This is the one I understand the least out of anything in the entirety of season 3. The entire final season. There's a million choices that I don't agree with, but like I can at least comprehend. But if you're gonna adapt this scene anyway, why wouldn't you adapt the really cool panel? You could even draw it in 2D if you wanted to. Like, fuck it. Just give us a fucking static image of how cool this panel looks. Why wouldn't you do that? I don't understand. Look at how his eyes framed within the horns. The fucking difference of like their scale and size. Legoshi's big, nasty hands. This is another issue with the anime, is that Legoshi doesn't look like this. This is a different character. Like, I'm sorry if you've been watching the anime and you don't know, but this is how Legoshi looks in the comic at this point. It's like a different character. Like, it's so different from how he's this fucking twink. He's so bony. He's such a bony man. I've said this before, I think, but I think so much about how Beastars makes me hyper aware that heads are just like a ball on a stick that's just like rotating on a hinge. Because I constantly visualize their heads in this anime as just being a ball on a stick, their neck, their long ass neck, and it's just like rotating around on their weird, stiff, long neck. I'm so aware of how long and slender their necks are. They just look weird. I'm like, it's not that bad. It's a nice looking anime on a regular basis, but like they're so twinky and weird, and like I'm not even used to looking at their necks in the manga. Their necks are not really a thing I think about all that often. I think about their necks all the time in the anime though. This is a different character. Like, it would be hard to recreate this panel with the models that they have. They'd have to like stylize it a bit and cheat, like in that JoJo's panel where they show the animation cheats that happen in 3D JoJo's things, or they'd have to just give us a cool drawing. That'd be cool. Show us more of the cool Paru Itagaki drawings. There was some Paru Itagaki drawings, oddly in the form of they showed the covers of the manga, I think, during the theme song in this last half of the season. That was strange. Also, the second half of the season, they call it the final season, but the second half has a new intro and outro. Almost like it's a fourth season. That's so stupid. It's just season 3 and 4. It literally ended on a season 3 cliffhanger. What do you mean it's all the final season? That's 2 seasons. They're just lying to us. I'm pretty sure it's just a trick to pay the animation studio less by counting it as one season instead of actually commissioning 2 or something. But anyway, when this scene happens, all that happens is Legoshi is like registering what's happening with the keenness and how it has blood in it or whatever. And then Louis just flashes on the screen like a ghost in front of him in first person. Legoshi just sees Louis looking at him, flashing on the screen, and he's like, "Get mad, Legoshi," and then disappears.
It's time to get angry, Legoshi.
And I'm like, that's just normal Louis. That's just normal Louis's normal head just saying the line at him. That's so boring. Recreate the fucking splash page, you losers. God damn it. I don't understand. So that pissed me off, but that's like not important story things. It's just like, why would you not? This is one of the best parts about reading the manga is there's these cool pieces of art. And why would, if you're going to adapt the exact same scene, why wouldn't you adapt the cool visual? I don't understand. But no, the worst scene in all of Beastars season 3-4 is dinner with Juno. Like, this was the part I talked about in the video essay. The first one is that Legoshi goes on a date with Juno, kind of, that it's perceived as a date by the public. But what happened is Legoshi, Juno comes to his house when he's already moved out in an apartment. His apartment, I guess, not his house. Juno visits his apartment, and she's looking for advice about what to do with Louis because she's trying to pursue Louis. So at this point, they're fully platonic. The two of them are not interested in each other. She's not even trying to fight it anymore. She's given up on Legoshi at this point and has moved on, and she's interested in Louis. But while they're talking, they end up going out for a dinner, like a platonic dinner, and they go out in society for the first time together. They've never been in public together, ever. And they go to this nice dinner place, and every step of the way, they notice that everyone's looking at them differently. And they're realizing how upsetting it is that they've felt like they were the weirdos this whole time, and they felt kind of outcasted for their sort of, essentially their perversions, their interests in the wrong people, and the sort of uphill fight that they're always having to achieve the life that they want to have, and the people that they're interested in pursuing Legoshi with Haru and now Juno with Louis. And they're seeing how easy life is if you're just normal. Because everyone's treating them well because of the fact that they look like a normal gray wolf couple, a husband, like a handsome young couple in love is what people see, and they're treating them differently because of that, and it's bothering both of them. Like Juno is upset, Legoshi's pissed, like because he's deeper in this. He's been going after Haru for a while now, so he's actually really mad. To realize what's going on here. And this culminates in them going outside and being accosted by a reporter talking about the devourings lately and talking about herbivore carnivore relations. And Juno responds by confessing that she's pursuing an herbivore on live television. This is a complex scene that takes place over multiple locations, including Juno. It takes place in Legoshi's apartment, and then in the street, and then in this restaurant, which is another new location, and then outside with a news reporter. So it's like a bunch of sets. And so seemingly to save money, the anime set all of this at the udon shop.
Don't you think Haru feels the same about you?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's quite the case.
Oh, okay. Well, how did you win her over then?
So this whole scene takes place in one location over the course of like a minute. They're just sitting there in the udon shop that Legoshi works at. Apparently he's on break right now, chatting with Juno. So she doesn't even come to his apartment. She comes to his work. They never go to the restaurant. They never venture into public as a couple. They never have a moment of recognizing what happened and how differently people are treating them. They just talk about Louis. And then they get accosted by a YouTuber that's just harassing people and vlogging, basically.
I won't let you or anyone else decide what will make me happy!
They get bothered by a vlogger, and that vlogger is like, it replaces the reporter, and she ends up confessing on his vlog that she's pursuing an herbivore, which is like, that doesn't work. You cannot compare confessing to some random guy's camera, which I don't even remember if it was live or anything, or if it was like maybe he'll upload this one day. Like, he might not use that footage, but either way, it's not the news, so it's like not being live broadcast to countless people. For all you know, that guy's a nobody. He probably is because he's annoying. So it's not that much of a confession, but also crucially, I cannot stress this enough. Juno asking Legoshi about Louis was the excuse to get them in the room together. It is not the point of the scene. This dinner where they interface with society and are upset about that is the point of the scene. Paru Itagaki is specifically very interested in how characters interact with society. This is the pressures that society puts on them. And I'm woke the fuck up, apparently. Look at me go. Like, she cares about these questions about society and the pressures that people are put on them. Like, look back at like the trans story with the ram and the turtle that I covered in Beast Complex, or the white tiger that hates himself in Beast Complex, and so on, and how these different characters, like, they really point to a very specific direction about what she cares about in these stories and why she did this. So I can pretty confidently say that this part where they interface with society and have this reaction to it, that's largely internal but is upsetting to them, I can pretty confidently say that that's the point of this scene and is not incidental. It's not flavor text that happens along the way. It's why she made the scene in the first place, is to get them in this room together and have Juno and Legoshi be in public together for the first time so they can see how they are seen. That's the point of the scene. Her asking for advice about Louis is just the excuse to get her there. It's just the intro to the scene that puts them in the same location. In the anime, her asking him about Louis is all that happens. That's the whole scene. They took they took the excuse to put them together and instead treated that as the point of the scene. So the scene in the anime is genuinely just her asking him about Louis, and then the YouTuber shows up and she yells at him, and that's the whole scene. They skipped the point of adapting the scene, and in doing so did not adapt the scene. They failed. They did not adapt this scene at all. And the scene that they did show isn't interesting or important. It's not actually worth showing. We already know that Juno is pursuing Louis. We already had the scene where she chews on the straw. And we don't even get the payoff. We didn't even get the payoff of her getting her revenge. At the end of the manga, she kisses Louis. Louis says that this is it. I'm sorry, but we can never be together. I'm choosing my destiny. I'm choosing my inheritance. I'm going to marry Azuki, I think her name is. Which Azuki gets a cool scene in the anime, to be clear. I find it very interesting that she's like, so we'll just have a loveless marriage. That's fine. I have other priorities. And she's actually like really like you know, she's like very like, how do I put it? She stands on her own in an interesting way. Like I like the texture they gave that character for how little screen time she gets in the anime. But when Louis chooses to close off Juno forever, Juno gets her revenge. She kisses him, and she specifically makes sure that he feels the carnivore teeth and everything, and what he's going to be missing for the rest of his life, which is cruel. But Juno's also a jealous, shitty person in most of the scenes that she's in. That's part of her character, is being a jealous person that kind of is sexually forward and a little sexual harassy, if we're getting onto it, honestly, the way that she like keeps pursuing Legoshi and so on. Like, she does not respect boundaries. She gets up in Haru's business too. She's always up in everybody's business. It's sexual. It's kind of sexual assault, but it's also the same thing as Louis jamming his hand in Legoshi's mouth. So like, if we're doing that, like, frankly, these are all similarly problematic gestures to have at people that at some point you just like, I guess that's what the setting's going to be like for the story. But like, that's her final revenge, is that she kisses Louis and specifically emphasizes what he'll never feel again because she's leaving him, because he's leaving her. That's her final revenge, and then she gets on the train and leaves. And there's a lot of people that don't like that ending for her, because they're annoyed that that's the ending of Juno's story. Is that's all she gets? She just gets shoveled aside. The anime forgets she exists, basically. The anime just attaches her to the ongoing drama club storyline. She has almost no scenes that involve Louis or Legoshi in general. And the drama club itself doesn't even get an on-screen resolution that has any actual scenes. Instead, there's like a postscript, basically. Like during the epilogue, there's like a montage that shows like, oh yeah, the drama club did their performance too, and yeah, Bill and Juno were there. The end, haha. Like, they get a weird lack of screen time at the end because of how abruptly the anime ends. So Juno just kind of gets dumped as a character, and she doesn't get her conclusion, which is, even if you didn't love her conclusion in the manga, she just kind of doesn't get one from what I remember in the anime. I've only watched the anime once. This is not a video essay, obviously. This is just me rambling about stuff, and I was worried I wouldn't have stuff to say or wouldn't remember, but boy, I suddenly just woke the fuck up at 11 p.m. and I'm fired up all of a sudden about this stuff. It's so frustrating. The anime ended insanely abruptly. Yaya never does anything in the entire anime. Yaya is around for 2 seasons of the anime, if we're counting it as 2 seasons. Because 2 seasons, it's 24 episodes. Yaya never does anything in the anime. Like, all he really does is cause Legoshi to pull his own teeth out by guilt tripping him. And then he just stands around doing nothing for 24 episodes. Like, he's there for the scene where he tries to arrest Melon and gets drugged. And then he's there for the scene where Legoshi pulls his teeth out. And he's there for the scene where he is a bad chaperone for Legoshi during their hunt for Melon in the club, and Legoshi gets shot. And then he spends the rest of the season standing around. He doesn't do anything. The Beastar doesn't do anything in the anime. Like, at the very least, because he is a somewhat disappointing character in the manga in a similar way, but he does some stuff. In particular, Yaya and Gosha are together at the end of the manga. Not romantically, although, you know, maybe. They're together at the end of the manga. And there's a part where there's a blackout in the city. This is during the games where Legoshi is fighting Melon and so on. There's a blackout in the city, and they're like, oh no, there's going to be a devouring in the dark. The carnivore's going to eat the herbivores or someone. And fucking the Beastar Yaya, which I just said with the fucking cadence of Race Car Yayas by Cake. The Beastar Yaya. He marches out into the darkness, unable to see, and like he confronts this conflict directly and risks himself and so on. Like, it's a cool scene. He also captures Melon. He has Melon in custody at the end of the manga. In the anime, they're like, Melon got away maybe? I don't know. And Melon and Yaya never like interact in the ending, I don't think, at all in the anime. The lion mayor is just made up. None of that happens in the manga at all. The conclusion of the manga, there's an extended epilogue of everybody having their goodbyes, but other than that, like the conflict ends with Melon. They don't have a bunch of other shit happen. So when the anime spends time with the mayor at the end, it's paced really weird. It's the anime keeps inventing fake danger for Haru to get Legoshi to do something. Like there's the fake out where they think that they trick you into thinking that Haru broke out and ran off to get eaten by Melon in the midway through the season. And actually she just like went to use the bathroom or something, or she was like reading a book with Louis' dad. She was just there. It was just a weird fake out. And here at the ending with the mayor, like they Gosha and Legoshi rip ass across town to get to Haru and stop the mayor and save her, and then she's just like in the crowd hanging out. Like she wasn't even in any direct danger at all. She was just she was at most coincidentally at the event where maybe one guy was going to go Hulk out, and there's no reason to think that she would be specifically in danger. It's so weird. It's so strange, especially since like Melon is the real villain. Like they tried to make the Beastars, they tried to make the mayor more of a villain in the anime by having him have a bunch of scenes, but we don't care about the mayor that much. Like Melon's the character that's the charismatic villain of the season, and he like abruptly loses the competition and then shoots himself with very little fanfare, and then just goes, but Haru will die to my evil plan. Like he has like a death groan where he just like exposits that Legoshi should take off across town to get to the mayor apparently. What an unnecessary undercutting of Melon for no reason. Like it's not worth it to spend that cachet on the mayor, who also barely did anything with the mayor anyway, so it just wasn't that interesting of a scene. Like what? Why did you rush the freaking mayor like Melon that bad when you spent 2 seasons hyping Melon up? They barely even correctly conveyed that Melon hulked out and got big in the first place, which he did via a dream. You just have to like pay close attention to that stuff. I knew we were like, it wasn't the worst season 4, I'll call it, for a while there, but I specifically knew we were in trouble when I realized like, oh no, they're gonna adapt the gang war, and specifically the gang war was like starting halfway through the penultimate episode. I'm like, what? Y'all, the season's over already. You can't start the gang war now. And so they just like rushed through an abridged version of the entire gang war arc, which is several chapters long. And they had the same number of factions, I think, that the manga had, but they just really, really awkwardly rushed through like, shiny lizard tails. Okay. And then the woman, and then like, they don't even finish the fight with the woman. The woman just like, He's like kind of fighting the woman, and then Melon attacks, and then the woman is never seen again. The fucking Fox faction just disappears without being defeated, as far as I can remember. She just stops being mentioned or seen so that Legoshi can fight Melon. And so it just becomes a fight against Melon, which you might as well have just made it about that anyway and not done the gang war then. Like, they were already going to trim stuff, so why did they try to adapt the gang war if they weren't going to do most of it anyway? Because it barely makes any sense the way that they present it, and it ultimately just gets sidetracked for him to just fight Melon anyway, which is what they could have been doing the whole time. Like, they could have had more time to flesh out the Melon conflict if they did that. I think about how, like, Louis is at the press conference. The press conference with Louis and the mayor does happen in the manga, except the mayor I don't think is there. It's just because I think the mayor is to be fair, mayor is like never mentioned again after the first arc of the manga, I think, because that's just one of the dropped elements that it does make sense to bring back on some level. Like that's fine that he's around still. But like Louis has that press conference where he calls out the black market. Then he specifically calls out what's happening right now with Legoshi in a way that's trying to support him. And then instead of Legoshi coming to him, coming to that press conference, what actually happens is Louis goes to the gang war and flees. And the Shishigumi are the ones that grab him and bring him there. And so I'm trying to remember if this is what happens. I'm pretty sure this is what happens. I remember he's going across town on the freeway with the Shishigumi that grabbed him, but people think that Shishigumi kidnapped Louis. So the police are chasing the Shishigumi. And so we have this cool scene where why am I forgetting his name? He's like the main Shishigumi narratively, especially since Free barely does anything half the time. Agata. This is a thing to bring up. This is fan art of the Shishigumi that's fucking rad, that really embraces how different they all look. And it's not far off, honestly. Like, to be clear, here's a picture of the Shishigumi. They actually look, are they in the same order? That'd be really helpful. No, they look like that. Like there's Dope with the, like he looks serene with the two dots. See, Agata, you can see Agata has a darker tone than everybody else. So like they actually draw Agata darker here. Sabu with the scars. Right there, and the scars in the rag. Free. This one's a little less on point. They didn't really commit to the pompadour look that Free has, which you can't really see here either, actually. But a notable detail about Agata is that he very specifically has dark fur. There's actually a good example too. This is what the Shishigumi look like in the anime, and this is a draw over that a fan did, which some of it's a little extreme, but like you can get the point. This is just a different character because these are literally just not Shishigumi from the cast. Like that's Free, that's Dope, that's the guy who dies in season 2. That's Agata. That's Free. That's not Free. That's Dolph. I know what Free is. He's got the pompadour. I didn't mean to call him Free, but this guy also has up hair. I'm pretty sure he's Dolph, right? No. The one eye. Sorry, Jinma. Like they all look distinct from each other. Sorry if I don't have them all memorized all the time, but like they all look distinct from each other. These two on the far right, left and right are not Shishigumi characters. So this guy just drew over them and be like, those two characters from the manga that are just not here. Like you look at the difference between Free and Free, like that's reasonably on point. He has a more faded scar, but like Agata has a completely different appearance. You can literally tell that the color contrast of his spots is inverted, and that's because that's what he looks like. To make my point and actually bring up an actual manga panel, that's what Agata looks like. That's actually what Agata looks like. He actually does look like that. Like he does have dark fur and light spots in the real manga, so it's just so distracting how weird he looks he looks like SpongeBob in the like the yellow fur and dark spot. He looks like SpongeBob SquarePants. What is up with his fur? He looks like this in the manga. He literally has a conversation about colorism in the manga because of how dark lions are treated differently and have different expectations for their physical aptitude and aggression and so on. Like it's an actual conversation about racism and colorism going on there. And they just didn't adapt his appearance, so they can't have that conversation. Bizarrely, there's a whole bit where Agata is kind of the resistance against Melon. But like he specifically is like the resistance against Melon, and Melon's like pointing a gun at him and all this shit. And in the anime, Melon turns on him and tries to kill and like mutilates him, and then Agata simps for him for some reason. He's like, oh, he's the chosen one for. I don't know what the fuck what he's talking about or why he's like that, but he simps for the Melon, even though Melon just like chopped his hand off or something. Bizarre, because he's specifically Melon's primary opponent within the Shishigumi in the manga. So I'm just like, I don't understand what they're going for there. He's the poor young Shishigumi member that you're like, oh no, poor. I'm just gonna close Mind Mogul. Who cares about this game? Bye. Been hearing its noises in the background. Like, this whole conflict just gets thrown out the window so they could have Agata simp for Melon for some reason. And then they go on to the competition and Melon slices his neck. And Agata's still just like, oh, this is how we'll win the competition, right? We're so oh, you're so genius. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? What is this adaptation? I don't understand. Like, the real final scene we see with Agata is him with a giant explosion behind him because he just dove out of the car on the freeway that is where the Shishigumi are currently escorting Louis to Legoshi. This the final stand of the Shishigumi. They're in a caravan of motorcycles and cars to get Louis from point A to point B. And Agata specifically rolls backwards out of the door, saluting Louis, and lands on his feet on the freeway. And then the other two that are on motorcycles passing him jump off their motorcycles and land on their feet because they're cats. And their motorcycles fucking explode. And so this is like the last we see of Agata is when he's like surrendering himself to be arrested as a distraction to buy Louis the time that he needs to get to Legoshi. That's could not be more polar opposite to what they did in the manga and anime. I don't know why they did that, besides the fact that it's cheaper not to animate this cool scene, I guess. I guess we could give Agata some disproportionate screen time, but then just never actually pay off why it was fun to watch that character in the manga in the first place. What the fuck? I'm so annoyed at this goddamn anime. Why did they do this? Ugh. I don't care how much you ever heard that the manga is messy or disappointing or whatever. The anime is so much worse, or at least at the very least, if you've read the manga, it's really annoying. It's really frustrating to sit through the anime when you know what happened in the manga and some of it was really cool, and instead you get like really disappointing stuff instead. Because Agata simping for Melon is not really cool or interesting, but he did have a genuinely cool scene before, so it would have been cool to see that instead, you know? I wish we could see that. God, where's my conversation with Orion? I've been chatting with Orion about this. Yeah, I've got the panels. I was sending him the panels themselves. Freaking Agata jumping out of jumping out, landing on his feet. He looks all cool like that and stuff. The full Shishigumi standing together except for Free. Free is specifically still in the because Free is the one that's driving, so he's driving Louis to his destination to get to Legoshi, and he sheds a tear over the sacrifice of all of his comrades. It's like an actual payoff for the Shishigumi as a concept. Like, it's maybe not the most badass thing ever, but it's like, it's at least something. What we got was so shit. I can't believe that the payoff for the Shishigumi is basically nothing in the anime. Like, what was the point? Or what is it? This bit where he's pointing the Melon is fucking scrawled his own fucking name on the wall. He's got this disrespectful, douchey replacement of the Shishigumi offices. He's currently like threatening Agata with a gun. And then fucking Legoshi shows up behind him outside in the mirror and fucking explodes through the glass. This would have been cool to see in the anime. Where the fuck was this scene? Where the fuck was this scene, Beastars anime? It's just not worth it? Why? I don't understand. But then they'd have to adapt white hair Legoshi, which they didn't do, because they chose to combine all of the Legoshi's friends scenes into like one sequence in season 4. So, because what actually happens is that Jack and the Onion is completely separate from his day out of hanging out with the boys. That's not a thing that happens later that day. Instead, what happens is he has a day of hanging out with the boys earlier in the season, but then later in the season, he has the scene with Haru where he thinks that he ate her, and it turns his fur white because of the fear of having done this thing. Because they basically, Paro Itagaki keeps changing Legoshi's appearance whenever she gets bored. So he gets another like ear cut off, and he shaves his fur in season 2, and then it grows back, and then he gets his new scar, and then his hair turns white for an arc in season 4-ish, and then it turns back and so on. Like it's ongoing changes with his appearance and so on. But basically the fright of having killed Haru turns his fur white, and it turns out to be a fake out, and she's fine. But it leads to also this storyline where because he's suspected of murder, as happens in the manga, if I remember correctly, or something, or in the anime, or something similar happens where he's on the run from the police. Like I'm pretty sure Melon frames him in some way, if not the same way. He ends up laying low at Cherryton Academy, and that's when you meet up with all the people in Cherryton Academy and see what they've been up to since before. And that's when he meets up with Jack, and that's when the storyline happens where he sees how lonely Jack has been on his own and so on, and the Onion storyline and everything. So everything's arranged in a very different order. But specifically, if I remember correctly, he has white fur during this confrontation with Melon. Oh, right. Yeah. He becomes a wanted wolf while his fur is white, and then he has to wait for it to turn back before he can get out again, because his physical description as a wanted man is based on looking like that. You could say it's nonsensical and weird that his fur is changing color, like it's the fucking gray fox mask in Oblivion for wanted level. But yeah, like he gets framed by Melon while he has white fur, and then it turns back eventually, and that's when he's free to wander freely in the street again. By contrast, in the anime, Melon frames Legoshi while he still looks like Legoshi, and then it never comes up again. He never faces consequences for being framed. He's not the police aren't hunting him. It never comes up in the story. The closest you get is that Gosha goes to Yaya to try to get help for Legoshi, and then Yaya betrays Gosha by being like, actually, we're going to send people after Legoshi, which is seemingly what happens, but it doesn't actually happen. There's no actual moment where the police go after Legoshi. Even though they know he's in the black market doing the gang war, the police never actually come after Legoshi, despite the anime saying that's going to happen. And it just never comes up again, and he's just never accosted in any way. They just drop that storyline like they forgot. And that's basically the final thing that Yaya does in the entire anime is betray Gosha, and then it doesn't do anything. It's so weird. The anime ends so abruptly, as if they had the next whole extra episode they were supposed to make, and then they just didn't. Because there's no conclusion, there's no final scene of Louis and Juno saying farewell, or any of the other farewells that happen in the storyline, or a final payoff about what happened to Melon, seeing him imprisoned, being a personal prisoner of Yaya's. And you don't get to see the moment where the sweet little moment where Haru and Legoshi kiss. Instead, Legoshi tears out the mayor's throat, and then Haru kisses his bloody snout in that scene. No, they go on a date. Like, what? And specifically, she climbs up him to kiss her. She climbs up his body to kiss him on her own terms as like equals or whatever. And then they get called out by a cop, and he's like, no, he's like, it's all right, officer, we're dating. And that's like essentially the final scene, which, yes, if you saw my Beast Complex video, you did see me accidentally mention that Haru and Legoshi still hadn't kissed. That was me misreading the translation of the Beast Complex chapter and forgetting the fact that obviously I'd already seen them kiss, because that was like the conclusion of the manga. Whoops. But like, you don't get to have a happy final scene with them in that context, because they instead mash it into this unnecessary mayor scene where he just tore the mayor's throat out and then she kisses the gore on his snout. What? No, that's not how their first kiss goes at all. Why is it? That's upsetting. I'm being a little dramatic because I'm fired up in a rant mode thing, but that part matters less on some level. Like I can get it as like an edgy Beastars thing. The idea that she kissed the blood on him. It's like not that weird. It's similarly quirky to a lot of the other tone of this overall thing. So yeah, I wasn't psyched about the new season, as you can probably tell. Even in season 3, as I'll call it, from last year, what was really distracting is I was like, one, they adapted that Juno scene really badly that I talked about, that I went on a rant on about it already, where they just didn't do it right. But a quote unquote problem for the anime is that Louis is a big deal to fans and in the story, but for the third fourth of the manga, he kind of just disappears. He's there for the first half, and then the last quarter, he's not there that much in the third quarter, because Legoshi is busy embracing his new life out in the world, so it's pretty much all new characters and all new settings, and not a lot of returning characters besides the occasional visit to his apartment by various people for like one chapter. So Louis not doing anything. The manga also has the issue of kind of not having an overarching storyline, and this leads to things like Kopi Luwak and Q and other like single chapter ish or single arc characters that don't come up again. So the anime tries to make those things make more sense. They get rid of Q entirely. Q is like on a news broadcast or is just like described as an MMA fighter, and they never get into who Q is in any real way. So we never get Beastars stands, which is the insanity of the manga. But we also, and everyone thought that was going to happen. Everyone thought Q was kind of stupid and doesn't go anywhere, and so you would just cut them from the adaptation. Kopi Luwak is the coffee guy, and they both under and over adapted him. I'm trying to remember if the part where there's there's like a flock of blood-sucking bats that are trying to steal blood from orphans that Gosha protects, if that happens or not in the anime. I feel like it didn't, but I could be wrong. But Kopi Luwak has a bunch of bats that harvest blood from children in order to study hybrids, which is part of why they find him, is because they're looking for information about Melon. And then they sample his coffee that stimulates carnivores, and there's the scene where Legoshi's like, I'm kind of in male mode right now, if I remember. I think it's the quote. Like, it really sets them up. They expand Kopi Luwak, so he shows up throughout season 1 and 2, including a part where he apparently Melon tries to murder him by drowning him, that's all made up. But almost every scene with Kopi Luwak in the anime is made up, because he only shows up for one scene in person, basically in the manga. They tried to expand him a lot, which kind of makes sense, except then they also expanded Kines. So they took the one time that Legoshi gets confronted by a suspicious energy drink that's apparently dosed, and they turned that into a huge extended thing with Kines, where there's some kind of energy drink that's laced with bone marrow or something that's like an ongoing problem for this whole society right now. And they made that the storyline for the entirety of season 3. And it's all filler, but they made it the main story. It's a really paradoxical, weird thing where, because there isn't a main story, like a primary driving thing for season 3 in the manga, because Melon's not that established yet, and there's kind of a lot of stuff that's kind of going all over the place. They made it the main story of the anime, but it's paradoxically filler because it never actually intersects with the main story of the anime. It doesn't intersect with Melon. It doesn't intersect with Legoshi after that first chapter, that first fight, which is the only part that's from the manga. It doesn't even intersect with Yaya. It just is there to give Louis a thing to do, because Louis is not in this part of the story. So Kines exists in the anime exclusively to give Louis a bunch of scenes where he can walk around and be investigating, just so that he's on camera. And they made it part of the conclusion. The conclusion of the season 3 was Legoshi being shot by Melon, or being drowned by the Shishigumi and by Melon, and Louis breaking into the Beastar Tower to confront Yaya about Kines, apparently, if I remember correctly. And then when he encounters Yaya's like, huh, interesting. Sounds like you've got it though. And then he just fucks off.
That's what you snuck into a police station like a spy to tell me? You can handle this on your own.
But you're the Beastar.
Yaya doesn't engage with Kines either, because it's not part of Yaya's story in the manga either. It's just there to give Louis stuff to do. So it has no consequence. It intersects with no other people's storylines, and there's no real payoff to it at all. He just runs around town investigating Kines, and then he like exposes Kines on the news, and then it never comes up again, basically. Like, it's just a fucking plot cul-de-sac for Louis to do, so he shows up on screen and the actor has lines and we get to be like, yay, Louis is in the show. That's the only reason it's there, which means that, like, at the time I was like, oh no, there's only one season left. Back in the day, I was like, they're gonna fuck up they're gonna try to adapt the second half of Beastars in one season. That's gonna suck. But then the one season turned out to be a double season, so it's actually 2 seasons. I'm like, oh, sure, okay, maybe they can do it then. That's about the rate which they've been adapting it so far. And then they have this whole second half, and I'm like, oh, they've got all this time to adapt so much stuff. But then they spent so much of the season on a made-up storyline about Kines that's not in the manga that they had to then not adapt so much of the manga because they lost so much time to the stuff they made up to put Louis on screen. I'm like, god damn it. Nothing makes it feel more like filler than the fact that he keeps meeting that one doctor on the roof of the hospital, and it's always the same location, so they don't have to make a new location. And it's always the same doctor who is a 2D character. Like, that's the most that a character shows up in the entire anime, where they're 2D the whole time. They kept not giving her a character model, and they kept just animating her on the same roof with Louis as cheaply as possible. Just, they're always standing on the same roof with no characters around and no scenery around, just standing next to the fire escape or whatever, and she just goes bap, 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 as a 2D character, and they just animate as cheaply as possible. And I'm like, you could not be more filler than that. Oh my god, it was so frustrating to watch. I'm like, did the budget get slashed? What's going on with this? And then, just to make me more perplexed, she shows up for like one scene of season 4, and she's a 3D model now. I'm like, god damn it, why weren't you a 3D model when you were here for so many scenes of season 3? You're barely in season 4, but you're a 3D model now? I'm so confused. I have no idea what the production is for this anime, or what its like thought process is sometimes. It's very interesting. Stuff's hard to make, it's expensive and time consuming. I'm sure that there's times where it's just easier to make somebody 2D than to animate certain things. I always think about how, like, at the very beginning of the anime, they show all the boys in the dog club and so on. And when they first introduce everybody, everyone is 3D. But Durham is 2D. The coyote or jackal or whatever he is, I forget. Durham is 2D, but everyone else is 3D in the room 609 or whatever, room 601, the canine room. But then they have dinner later on, either that episode or the next episode, and they're all 3D now, and Durham's 3D. I'm like, what? Why was he 2D last scene? And only he was? Weird. A lot of strangeness. Very strange adaptational choices. Some of it I can kind of explain, like them trying to force Louis into the storyline. They also force some scenes, like Louis throwing up while trying to have sex. They made that happen sooner than normal. That is a scene from the manga, but it happened volumes earlier than normal because they just wanted to have something for Louis to do in season 3. So they rearranged stuff like that. Very strange. One of the things that I found really weird is that they clearly wrote the show like it was a season 3 and a season 4. It's really weird how Jack shows up in the premiere for season 3. And they drop the hint that he's like having these weird classes with dogs. And then he just doesn't come up for the rest of the season. Jack like never appears again in the rest of season 3. I'm like, what? Just save it for season 4. What was the point of that one scene? Particularly because the season premiere of season 3 was so overstuffed with so many things that it wanted to get through that wasting time on Jack felt so weird if he wasn't even going to come up in this entire season. Like, just bring this up later. During another Cherryton storyline, it's fine. Very weird. They reduced Juno's segregation apologia. The part where the drama club is segregated happens in the manga, but Juno is like, isn't this right though? Shouldn't we be doing this? Isn't like she's like everyone else is like, this is stupid, blah blah blah, and she's like the one person that's like, maybe this is the right thing to be doing though. Maybe we should be separated, and they just take that. They get rid of that. Like, nope, can't have Juno be unlikable. But it mostly leads to her not doing anything at all this season, unfortunately. They also keep killing chicks for some reason. Kopi Luwak is experimenting on a chick, and the chick dies, I think. And that's right after the chick dies that Pina and Bill are raising together. In the manga, Pina and Bill and Alba are all there together. Bill gets discovered by Alba and Pina, and they use Alba's advice, and it's like a 3-dad polycule all raising this chick together, and the chick survives. In the anime, they keep it a secret from Alba, the person that was the most helpful, able to help them probably, and then the chick dies, and it's like, why did they do that? It's unnecessary. But sure, it's not. I can't object to it that much. It's basically adapting the storyline. They just changed the ending in a way that doesn't have consequences for the story necessarily. So I'm not necessarily a flaw. Just I'm like, they changed that. But what I did notice is that they no homoed Pina, because not only is he in that storyline, but Pina specifically is in contact with Riz, which does happen in both. But in the anime, he calls Riz on the phone, and Riz is 2D, I guess, because they didn't want to like animate the location Riz is in. It does feel like it's a cost saving measure, maybe, like keep not making these locations. It's one of those things where I'm like, maybe Beastars should have just been 2D, because they keep they keep seeming to be making decisions about the adaptation seemingly just because they want to have fewer locations. It feels like they just want to have fewer locations, basically, and not have to model those 3D locations. That they just don't show the location, basically, and they keep making decisions to then not have a scene set in that location if they can avoid it, basically. But they kept doing it. It just felt weird to me. But lost my train of thought a little bit. In the anime, I'm losing my voice a little bit. I just started yelling for like the last hour after already doing like a 5-hour Q&A. I've been doing this for all day after saying I was sick. This is gonna have consequences for me tomorrow. In the anime, Pina is in Riz's cell, and they're practically cuddling. They're sitting side by side, like, I think physically hip to hip touching, and I think it feels like Lena's practically leaning on him, because they're watching Louis' speech live on Pina's phone. So Pina has been visiting Riz in jail. And he specifically points out that he's maintaining this relationship because he wants to see Riz when he gets out, which is like the gayest shit I've ever seen. And Riz is basically canonically gay because his interest in Tem is so specific that it feels like he actually just is gay in a nearly canonical way more than any other characters. So the fact that Pina is himself so interested in Riz in that way is some of the queeriest, baitiest stuff you could ever seen. Like, it genuinely feels like they're actually a couple, and that scene might be even confirming that they're a couple, especially since it's the last you ever see of them. It feels like a send-off to them being a couple, and just not a thing that they're fully willing to like acknowledge necessarily. So even if it's a budget-saving adaptational choice, removing Pina from the room and having him call him on the phone is so disappointing. It's such a shitty version of doing that scene. You're like, no, they're supposed to be together. They have to be together. Just draw Pina in 2D, you cowards. Just draw them both in 2D cuddling. Fuck it. If you guys are really struggling with your budget that bad. So obviously I've got a bit of a fire in me. I'll probably make a larger video about this at some point. You know what? I should just make this part. I just make this part public, shouldn't I? This should just be a third channel video where I go on a big rant and just let it out. Like, because my immediate follow-up is then to be like, I should go make a video about this later. I'm like, why don't I just make this the video? Let's just put this on Boring Threeth as this week's rant video. Why not? And then at some later date, I'm sure I'll have a more scripted, structured thing for the video essay channel. I'm sure we'll talk about it more specifically. And if I made any mistakes here, I'll actually research them. I'll actually sit there and compare and contrast the two things by rereading the manga and rewatching the anime and so on. But like I've got opinions